My maid of honor, my best friend since childhood, invited my fiancé's ex-girlfriends to my bachelorette party to humiliate me. She told me it was all just a joke. I laughed, hugged her, and went home. The next morning, I sent a video I took of her in the bathroom to her employer and destroyed her career forever. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The first thing I saw when I walked into the ridiculously expensive downtown loft was a ghost. Then I saw two more. They were ghosts of relationships past, specters of my fiancé David's life before me, all gathered in one glittering, champagne-filled room. And in the center of them all, beaming like a malicious lighthouse, was my best friend, Olivia. "Surprise!" she shrieked, her voice a little too sharp, a little too loud. She threw her arms around me, the satin maid of honor sash crinkling against my ear. The perfume she wore, the one I'd bought her for her last birthday, felt suffocating. My smile was a fragile thing, something I had pasted on my face the moment Olivia had blindfolded me in the car, chattering about the surprise of a lifetime. I had expected a spa day, maybe a tacky dance class, or even a quiet dinner with my closest friends. I had not, in any version of my pre-wedding fantasies, expected to be greeted by the collected works of David's romantic history. There was Isabel, the college girlfriend, the one his mother still mentioned wistfully from time to time. She had an artist's intensity about her, and her eyes, dark and appraising, swept over me with a flicker of something I couldn't quite name. Beside her, laughing with a flute of champagne, was Chloe, the wild phase ex he dated for a summer 6 years ago. Her laughter was as loud as Olivia's, and it seemed to echo with a shared, secret joke. And in the corner, looking just as bewildered as I felt, was a woman I vaguely recognized from old photos as Sarah, the one right before me. What is all this, Liv?" I asked, my voice a strained whisper meant only for her. I tried to keep the smile plastered on, but I could feel it cracking at the edges. Olivia pulled back, her own smile wide and brilliant and utterly fake. "It's your bachelorette party, silly. I thought, what's a better way to send you off into married life than with a hilarious trip down memory lane? A roast. We're going to hear all the embarrassing stories. It's just a bit of fun." Her eyes danced with a feverish glee that turned my blood to ice. This wasn't fun. This was a meticulously planned ambush. Each woman here was a landmine, each shared memory a potential explosion, and Olivia had gathered them all in one room with the sole purpose of watching me detonate. For a moment, the air left my lungs. The chic industrial loft, with its exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows showing the glittering city skyline, felt like a cage. My mind, usually my sharpest asset, felt fuzzy with shock. I wanted to turn around, walk out, and never speak to Olivia again. I wanted to cry. But then, a different part of me took over. I am a corporate strategist. My entire career is built on staying calm in hostile negotiations, on seeing 10 moves ahead while my opponent is still gloating about their first. I handle multi-million-dollar mergers with less emotional whiplash than I was feeling right now. And as I looked at Olivia's triumphant face, I realized this was simply another kind of merger, a hostile takeover of my happiness, and I would not allow it. So I took a deep, steadying breath, pushed the hurt down into a small, locked box in my chest, and let a genuine, wide smile spread across my face. I laughed, a sound that was bright and clear and completely manufactured. "Olivia, you are insane," I exclaimed, projecting warmth and amusement. "This is the most unhinged and brilliant idea you've ever had." I watched the flicker of confusion in her eyes before she masked it. This wasn't the reaction she'd prepared for. I turned to the room of Exes, my posture open, my expression serene. "Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel. I have to say, I'm incredibly impressed Olivia managed to get you all here. I hope she's paying you well." A few of them offered hesitant smiles. The atmosphere shifted, just a fraction of a degree, from a firing squad to a deeply awkward social experiment. It wasn't the presence of his past that hurt. It was the gleeful malice of my present, standing right beside me in a maid of honor sash. The first hour was a masterclass in social endurance. I navigated the room with a practiced ease I didn't feel, my mind a furious engine of calculation beneath a placid surface. I complimented Isabel on her art gallery, which I knew from David was doing quite well. I asked Chloe about her travels, remembering a story. About her backpacking through Thailand. I was a gracious hostess at my own execution. My performance was flawless, too flawless. It was beginning to unnerve Olivia. I could see her watching me, her brow furrowed slightly, her smile tightening. She had expected tears, a tantrum, a dramatic exit. My cheerful compliance was derailing her script, so she decided to force the issue. "Okay, everyone, gather around," Olivia announced, clapping her hands. "Time for our first game. It's called Secrets and Lies, the David edition. Each of our special guests will share a story about David, and Rachel has to guess if it's true or a lie. Fun, right?" A palpable wave of discomfort rolled through the room. Even Chloe looked hesitant. But Olivia was the director of this nightmare, and she was determined to see it through. She pointed a perfectly manicured finger at Isabel. "You're up first." Isabel shifted, looking deeply uncomfortable. "Oh, I don't know, Olivia." "Come on, it's for Rachel," Olivia urged, her voice syrupy sweet. Isabel sighed, avoiding my eyes. "Okay. Once, David and I were so broke in college that we stole a whole tray of food from the dining hall and hid it under our coats. He tripped on the way out, and a river of macaroni and cheese flowed out from under his jacket." I laughed, a genuine chuckle this time. "Oh, that is 100% true. He told me that one himself. He said it was the most humiliating moment of his undergraduate career." Olivia's face fell. I had stolen her thunder. She turned to Chloe with a pointed look. "Chloe, your turn. Give us a good one." Chloe, buoyed by her third glass of champagne, was more willing to play. A smirk played on her lips. "All right. David once told me that his biggest romantic fear was ending up in a boring, suburban life with a mortgage and a minivan." The room went silent. The comment was a missile aimed directly at the life David and I were so happily building. We had just put a down payment on a house in a quiet, tree-lined neighborhood. We had talked about kids, about the future, about growing old together. This wasn't just a story, it was a judgment. I felt a sharp, hot sting of hurt. I glanced at Olivia and her eyes were gleaming. This was it. This was the reaction she wanted. She was waiting for me to crumble. I held her gaze, and instead of flinching, I smiled. It was a small, knowing smile. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment longer before I spoke, my voice calm and even. "Oh, Chloe, that's an easy one. It's a lie." Chloe blinked. "What? No, it's not. He totally said that." I shook my head gently. "No, he didn't. You see, he told me he said his biggest fear was ending up in a life that wasn't authentic to him. He was afraid of settling for something just because it was expected. With me, the house, the future we're planning, none of it is boring to him. It's what he chooses. It's authentic." I paused, then added, "It's amazing what can be lost in translation over the years, isn't it?" The missile had been caught, disarmed, and gently placed back at the sender's feet. Chloe flushed, mumbling something about how maybe she'd misremembered. Olivia's expression was thunderous. She had planned an explosion, and all I was giving her was calm, reasonable diffusion. "She thinks this is her game, her rules," I thought, taking a slow sip of my water. But Olivia had forgotten one crucial thing: I'm a strategist. And a new game had just begun. Her goal was to humiliate me for one night. My goal was now to make sure she regretted it for the rest of her life. Olivia and I had been friends since we were 6 years old. We learned to ride bikes together on the same quiet street, our training wheels coming off on the exact same day. When my parents went through a messy divorce, it was Olivia's house I ran to, her family's guest room that became my sanctuary. And when her father lost his job and money was tight, it was my mother who made sure Olivia had new school supplies every year and a spot at our dinner table whenever she wanted it. Our lives had been intertwined, a tapestry of shared secrets and mutual support. I was the studious one, the planner. She was the dreamer, the one with a flair for the dramatic. When she decided she wanted to be a flight attendant, I was the one who drilled her on emergency procedures and helped her write her application essays. When she was short on cash for the expensive certification program, I gave her $2,000 from my first ever bonus, telling her to pay me back whenever she could. She never did, and I never asked for it. That's what best friends did. I loved her. Or, more accurately, I loved the person I had always believed her to be. Looking back now, from the cold, clinical vantage point of this loft, the warning signs were there, like faint cracks in a foundation. There was the subtle way she would belittle my achievements, framing my promotion as me being a workaholic. There was the time she'd accidentally let it slip to a mutual acquaintance that I was in therapy, framing it as her being so worried about me. And then there was David. I'd met him through work, a whirlwind romance built on witty banter and a shared vision for the future. He was kind, brilliant, and he looked at me like I was the only person in the world. When I introduced him to Olivia, she had been gushingly enthusiastic. "He's perfect, Ratch. You finally found a good one." But behind the praise, there were tiny, barbed comments. "He's so handsome. I'm surprised he didn't go for a model type," she'd say, a sly reference to his ex, Chloe. Or, "It must be nice to have someone so successful. You won't have to worry about money." This, from the woman whose flight attendant job took her to Paris and Rome while I was working 60-hour weeks to build my career. Her jealousy had been a low hum in the background of our friendship, but with my engagement, it had amplified into a deafening roar. The wedding planning had become a battleground. She decriticized every choice from the venue, "A bit traditional, don't you think?" to my dress, "It's lovely, but are you sure it's the most flattering cut for your figure?" I had brushed it off as stress, as her wanting the best for me. I had been a fool. This party wasn't a misguided attempt at fun. It was a declaration of war. She didn't think I deserved David. She didn't think I deserved this happiness. And she was going to prove it by showing me all the women she thought were better than me. After the disastrous game, the party's energy fractured. Olivia tried to rally everyone for a karaoke session, but the enthusiasm had evaporated. The ex-girlfriends were now clustered together, speaking in low tones and casting sympathetic glances my way. They weren't my enemies, they were pawns, and they were beginning to realize it. This was my moment. "I just need a minute," I said to no one in particular, gesturing vaguely towards the hallway. I made my way to the large, opulent bathroom, my heels clicking purposefully on the polished concrete floor. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against the cool marble vanity. For a single, indulgent moment, I let the mask drop. My reflection showed a woman on the verge of tears, her eyes wide with hurt and fury. I saw the 6-year-old girl who trusted Olivia with all her secrets. I saw the 20-something woman who gave her friend money she couldn't really spare. The betrayal was a physical ache in my chest. I let myself feel it for exactly 60 seconds. Then, I took a deep breath, stood up straight, and looked my reflection in the eye. The hurt was still there, but something else was rising to the surface: cold, clear-eyed resolve. The strategist was back in control. I pulled out my phone. My hands were perfectly steady. I wasn't just going to endure this night, I was going to document it. I switched my phone to video mode and adjusted the settings. I walked back out of the bathroom and into the main room. The music was louder now, a desperate attempt by Olivia to inject some life back into the party. I drifted over to the bar area, where a collection of purses and jackets were piled on a side table. With a casual movement, as if I were just setting my phone down while I refilled my water, I propped it up behind a bouquet of flowers, angling the lens towards the main seating area and the hallway leading to the bathroom. It wasn't a perfect angle, but it was something. An insurance policy. With my trap set, I began my own investigation. I approached Isabel, who was standing by the window, staring out at the city lights. "Tough room, huh?" I said softly. She started, then gave me a wry smile. "You could say that. Listen, Rachel, about what Olivia said. When she invited me, she made it sound like this was your idea. Like you wanted to have this crazy, modern, clear the air party. I never would have come if I'd known she was putting you on the spot like this. It's cruel." My heart gave a painful throb. So Olivia hadn't just invited them. She had lied to them, manipulating them into being her accomplices. "Thank you for telling me that, Isabel. It means a lot," I said sincerely. Before we could say more, Olivia's voice cut through the music. "Okay, who wants shots?" Her cheerful facade was back, but her movements were jerky, agitated. My composure was getting to her. Her plan was failing, and she was beginning to spiral. She herded a couple of the other women towards the kitchen, her laughter shrill. A few minutes later, I saw her grab another friend by the arm and pull her towards the bathroom. "I need a pep talk," she muttered, just loud enough for me to overhear. The bathroom door clicked shut, but didn't latch completely. It was open just a crack. My instinct screamed, this was it. I walked calmly towards the hallway, pulling out a second, older phone I kept in my purse for emergencies. I held it up, pretending to be scrolling through photos, and slowly moved closer to the bathroom door. I could hear their voices inside, low and conspiratorial. "She's not even crying, she's just smiling. It's freaking me out," Olivia hissed. "Just give her more to drink, Liv. She'll crack eventually," the other friend replied. "I need something to take the edge off. This was supposed to be fun, and she's ruining it," Olivia whined. Then I saw it. Through the crack in the door, reflected in the large mirror over the sink, I saw Olivia pull a tiny plastic baggie from her purse. I saw her tap a small amount of white powder onto the back of the toilet tank. My blood ran cold. My fingers, moving with a life of their own, found the video record button on my old phone. I held it steady, tilting it just so, as if I were admiring a photo on my screen. The lens was perfectly angled. The reflection in the mirror was undeniable. I captured the whole thing, the little baggie, the white line, Olivia bending down, and the quick, sharp sniff. I held my breath, my heart hammering against my ribs. I had her. The game had just changed for good. Armed with the video, I felt a strange sense of calm descend over me. The hurt and anger were still there, but they were now encased in a layer of icy purpose. I was no longer a guest at a party. I was a predator that had just cornered its prey. I returned to the main room just as Olivia and her friend emerged from the bathroom, their eyes bright and their energy artificially high. Olivia clapped her hands together, a general leading a charge that had already failed. "All right, ladies, last call for dignity. Let's have a toast," she yelled, her voice brittle. She began pouring champagne into a pyramid of glasses she'd set up, her movements just a little too fast, a little too clumsy. As she handed out the flutes, I knew this was my chance to make my first move. Not a direct attack, but a subtle show of power. When everyone had a glass, Olivia raised hers. "To Rachel," she began, her voice dripping with false sincerity. "May her marriage be as full of surprises as her bachelorette party." A few people laughed weakly. I just smiled. When she was done, I raised my own glass. "And I'd like to make a toast as well," I said, my voice cutting cleanly through the awkward chatter. The room fell silent. All eyes were on me. "I want to toast my maid of honor, Olivia," I began, looking directly at her. Her smile faltered. "Liv, tonight has been truly eye-opening. You went to such incredible lengths to plan an evening that I promise you, none of us will ever forget. You've shown me what's truly important, what matters most when you're building a life. You've taught me about loyalty, about trust, and about what true friendship looks like." I paused, letting the words hang in the air. Every word was true, just not in the way she thought. "You've given me a gift tonight, the gift of clarity," I continued, my voice soft but firm. "And for that, I will be forever grateful. So, thank you, Olivia, for everything." I took a sip of my champagne, my eyes never leaving hers. The color drained from her face. She knew, on some primal level, that she had been outmaneuvered. The double meaning in my words was a poison dart, and it had hit its mark. Most people in the room heard a gracious, if slightly strange, thank you speech. Olivia heard a threat. She tried to recover, to regain control of the narrative. Well, I'm glad you had fun, Ratch, she said, her laugh high and tinny. Let's just hope David's proposal was a little less dramatic. She was trying for a joke about our engagement, a simple, private moment she'd always been a bit dismissive of. She wanted to imply it was boring, that it lacked flair. It was a weak, desperate jab, and it fell completely flat. I just smiled serenely. No, it wasn't dramatic at all, I replied, my voice filled with warmth. It was quiet and it was perfect. It was just for us. My complete refusal to be baited, my unshakable composure, was the real confrontation. I wasn't playing her game anymore. I was an observer, a documentarian, and a judge, all rolled into one. I had watched her set a trap for me, and in her frantic efforts to see it sprung, she had walked right into one of my own. The party fizzled out soon after that. The atmosphere had become too heavy with unspoken things. The ex-girlfriends, one by one, came to me to say goodbye. Isabel gave my arm a squeeze. "For what it's worth," she whispered. "He's a good man. You're lucky to have each other." Chloe, looking surprisingly sober and sheepish, just mumbled, "Sorry about all this. Olivia's intense." They had arrived as specters of my fiancé's past, but they were leaving as reluctant allies, united by a shared distaste for Olivia's cruelty. She had wanted to isolate me, and instead, she had isolated herself. Finally, it was just me and Olivia, standing in the middle of the debris of her failed AM. Bush, red Solo cups, discarded napkins, and the sad, deflated remnants of black game over balloons littered the floor. "Well," she said, avoiding my gaze, "that was a night." "It certainly was," I agreed, my voice neutral. I gathered my things, slipping my second phone, the one with the incriminating video, deep into my purse. Then I did something that clearly shocked her. I walked over and wrapped her in a tight hug. She was stiff and unyielding in my arms. I leaned in close to her ear and whispered, "Thank you for everything, Liv. I'll never, ever forget tonight." I pulled back and gave her one last, brilliant smile. I saw fear in her eyes. It was the fear of the unknown. She knew she had lost, but she didn't know how, and she didn't know what the consequences would be. That uncertainty was the beginning of her punishment. I walked out of the loft and didn't look back. The cool night air felt like a baptism, washing away the cloying perfume and stale champagne of the party. I drove home in silence, the city lights blurring past my window. My mind was a whirlwind of activity. I didn't tell David what happened when I got home. He was asleep, and I needed to handle this myself. Seeing the hurt on his face would only cloud my judgment, and I needed to be perfectly clear. I simply told him the party was weird and a little draining, and that I wanted to sleep. But I didn't sleep. I went into my home office, the quiet sanctuary where I untangled complex corporate problems, and I began to build my case. I sat down at my laptop, the damning video file already transferred and saved in 3 separate, secure locations. First, I conducted a thorough search of Olivia's employer, a major international airline. I found their corporate website and navigated to the Our Values section. I read about their unwavering commitment to passenger safety, their strict code of conduct for all employees, and their zero-tolerance policy for substance use. I took screenshots. Then I dug deeper. Using a professional networking site, I identified the key people in their corporate structure. I wasn't going to send my email to a generic customer service address. I found the name and direct email address of the Vice President of Human Resources. I found the Senior Director of In-Flight Services. I even found the head of their Internal Ethics and Compliance Division. I compiled a neat list. These would be my recipients. My heart wasn't pounding with anger anymore. It was beating with a slow, steady rhythm of grim satisfaction. Olivia had tried to publicly humiliate me with ghosts from the past. I was going to privately and professionally dismantle her future. She had used personal relationships as a weapon. I was going to use corporate policy. Her attack was emotional, messy, and loud. My response would be logical, clean, and silent. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I made a pot of strong black coffee, the aroma filling the quiet house. David was still asleep. The world felt still, paused, holding its breath before the dawn. It was the perfect time. I sat down at my desk, the list of email addresses open on one screen, a blank message open on another. I took a sip of my coffee. There was no rage left, no desire for a screaming match or a tearful confrontation. There was only the cold, hard necessity of what had to be done. I had identified a threat to my well-being and my future, and I was neutralizing it. My fingers flew across the keyboard, composing a message that was a model of professional detachment. To VP of HR, Director of In-Flight Services, Head of Ethics and Compliance. Subject: urgent safety and conduct concern regarding Flight Attendant Olivia Richards. Dear Madam Sirs, my name is Rachel Miller. I am writing to you today with a heavy heart, but out of a profound sense of responsibility for the safety and integrity I know your airline upholds. I am the fiancé of a close friend of one of your flight attendants, Ms. Olivia Richards. On the evening of August 3rd, 2025, during a private event, I witnessed and recorded behavior by Ms. Richards that I believe constitutes a serious violation of your company's code of conduct and presents a significant safety risk. Attached to this email is a short video file. The contents are self-explanatory. I trust that you will handle this sensitive matter with the discretion and seriousness it warrants. Thank you for your time and attention. Sincerely, Rachel Miller. I read it over twice. It was perfect. No emotion, no backstory, no personal drama, just the facts. I attached the video file, the one I'd trimmed to show only the 30 seconds of irrefutable evidence. The file name was simple: O. Richards Incident 080320025, MP4. My cursor hovered over the send button. This was the point of no return. For a fleeting second, the face of the 6-year-old girl I used to share popsicles with flashed in my mind. Then, it was replaced by the image of Olivia's SM. Ugh, triumphant face at the party. I clicked the button. A sense of profound, quiet finality washed over me. I closed my laptop. The first text message arrived 4 hours later, while I was at my desk reviewing a quarterly report. Olivia, what did you do? I read it and didn't reply. The second text came 20 minutes after that. Olivia, they called me. HR, they're grounding me pending an investigation. Investigation into what, Rachel? What did you tell them? I took a sip of my coffee. The messages grew more frantic over the next hour, a cascade of digital panic. Olivia, they mentioned a video. A video? Were you filming me? How could you do that? After everything we've been through. Olivia, pick up the phone. I know you see these messages. You are ruining my life over a stupid party. It was a joke. Olivia, they just called back. My career is over. 20 years of dreaming gone because you couldn't take a joke. You are a cold, heartless snake, Rachel. Olivia, please call me. We can fix this. I'll apologize. I'll pay you back the money. Please. I read the final message, the one that mentioned the $2,000 loan from nearly a decade ago. It was a pathetic, last-ditch effort. She still didn't understand. This wasn't about money or a joke. This was about a betrayal so deep it had to be excised completely. I held my finger over her name in my contact list. The climax of her story was a flurry of desperate texts. The climax of mine was a single, quiet tap on a screen. I pressed block contact, and just like that, the noise was gone. That evening, I finally told David everything. We sat on the couch in our living room, the one we'd picked out together, and I laid it all out. I told him about the ambush with his exes, the cruel games, and the things they had said. I saw hurt and anger flash in his eyes, anger on my behalf. Then I told him about the bathroom, the video, and the email I had sent that morning. I showed him the frantic string of text messages from Olivia. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. He just looked at me, his expression unreadable. For a terrifying moment, I wondered if I had gone too far, if he would see me as vengeful and cold. Then he reached out and took both of my hands in his. I am so sorry, Rachel, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I'm sorry she put you through that you had to sit there and endure that kind of cruelty from someone you trusted. He shook his head, a look of dawning horror on his face. And to think, I almost had her stand next to me at our wedding as your maid of honor. The thought of it makes me sick. He pulled me into a hug, holding me tight. What you did, I can't say I would have had the strength or the presence of mind to handle it that way, but you protected yourself. You protected us. You were brilliant. Hearing him say that, feeling his unwavering support, was like the final click of a lock falling into place. Any lingering doubt I had vanished. We were a team. Olivia had tried to drive a wedge between us, and her actions had only fused us together more strongly. News of Olivia's downfall trickled back to me through the grapevine. A mutual friend called, her voice a mixture of shock and morbid curiosity. Olivia had been fired, effective immediately. The airline didn't even conduct a long investigation. The video was all the proof they needed. She had been forced to tell her parents, who were devastated. She was a pariah, the subject of hushed, pitying gossip. My only direct action was to send a short, formal email to my bridal party. Due to personal circumstances, I wrote, Olivia will no longer be able to participate in our wedding. I'm so excited to celebrate with all of you. I then called my sister, who had originally been a bridesmaid, and asked her to be my maid of honor. Her joyful, tearful yes was a balm on the lingering wound. Our wedding day was perfect. It was a beautiful, sunny afternoon, filled with love and laughter and people who genuinely wished us well. As I stood opposite David, saying my vows, I looked out at the faces of our friends and family. There were no ghosts in the room. There were no enemies masquerading as friends. A few months later, David and I were on our honeymoon, sitting on a balcony overlooking the ocean. The betrayal felt like a story from another lifetime, about another person. Removing Olivia from my life had not left a hole. It had revealed a space that was quickly filled with peace. I didn't feel the sharp sting of anger anymore, just a quiet, profound calm. I realized the bachelorette party had been a gift, just as I'd told Olivia. It was a stress test, a final exam before I started the most important chapter of my life. It had revealed a hidden malignancy, and I had been given the opportunity to remove it cleanly and completely before it could spread. I hadn't just gotten revenge. I had performed a necessary surgery on my own life, and I had healed.